Hi, welcome back to Quilted Cactus. Today we are doing delivery number 4 on Shamballa Designs, her secret sewing pattern for Parvati. Again, I do want to reiterate, at the time of the filming of this, she has revealed the final product. Earlier, let's see, she did it at the end of April was when she released this delivery number 4, sorry. And however, again, I just think it's something interesting and neat, and that if anybody's interested in her future secret sews, you may want to check my videos out just to see how it's delivered, how it's put together. I found it fun, and I'm really glad the way my bag is turning out. So we'll go ahead with that. We're going to go ahead and get right into it, because this will probably be a little bit longer, because this is the finishing. We will actually, at the end of this video, see the final product. So what we're going to do first is the new pieces that she introduces in delivery number 4 will be the top band front. So you'll have one of those, and you'll need to stabilize it. She does give you a pattern piece for her. This is you cut it on the fold, so that's why it looks like it's a little short, but you're cutting it on the fold. But she'll give you a pattern piece for the stabilizer. It's just, again, it looks just like a real skinny piece, great for your Decoville scraps. She shows you how to place it on your piece. As you can see, it's not at the top of the thing, but she gives you the measurements on how far down to attach it. And then you will need the other new piece that she introduces this delivery is the top band back, which is a little bit wider. However, there is no stabilizer on this. The lining contrast band, you'll need 2 of those. These will actually go at the top of your lining pieces. Between this and the zipper placket will go between this and the lining. So I just cut this to match my top of my bag, so it's all the same, I guess. I'm trying to think of a proper word, but I'm not thinking of it. So anyways, so these are the new pieces that's introduced in this portion, which are the final pieces. Obviously, you're going to need to bring back all of your pieces from that's being constructed, which is your 2 handles. So you'll have those. I'm going to put them back in my little bin as I mention it. You'll need, of course, your zipper placket that was done on delivery 1. Oh, I failed to mention, in this delivery as well, you will need to cut the Decoville light or your interfacing piece for the back of your bag. Because remember, we didn't attach it to the back of the bag. The back of the bag at the end of this one, whereas we did it on the first one, and I'll show you that because I did that, of course, off camera. So you will need to cut this for delivery 4. I'm sorry I failed to mention that as something new. You'll need to bring back your exterior zipper with that, where we done the already got the tabs on, which I'm going to need that right off the bat. Your bottom with your feet attached, and my feet, have I attached? Yes, I have. I need to make sure that my feet are attached, which looks like I didn't finish my feet like I said I would, so I will finish that up off camera. My apologies. Both of your completed lining pieces, your zipper lining with your zipper pocket and your slip pocket. You'll need your, let's see, bring your, oh, I lied again. Another new piece. I'm sorry, guys. I meant to have all this stuff out in front of me. You need a lining zipper pocket front. So you'll need a lining piece that's for your zipper pocket front. You will cut this out for delivery 4 as well. I'm not doing a very good job right off the bat. Sorry about that. All right, let's see, I'm getting all my pieces all messed up. And then break back your front and back panel. So this is our back panel that we finished at the end of delivery 3. And again, remember, this is not interfaced at this time, okay? But front panel, we interfaced it at the end of when we completed this portion. So I did get this interfaced. So again, we'll have that top band, which is already interfaced. So you'll see why this was interfaced now and why the back was not interfaced now. You'll see why when we complete the bands on top of the bag. Okay, so we'll get that. And then the first thing we're going to start off with, we're going to go right into it. The first thing we're going to start off with is we are going to add our exterior zipper pocket. So you're going to grab your front panel, which a front panel is where you've got the front flap, and that's already interfaced. You're going to need your lining, front lining piece. Get my pattern pieces out of the way here. Get my other pieces. Let's set my interfacing off to the side because I will do that off camera. You're going to need your front lining zipper, which is a nice long zipper with the zipper ends. And then you're going to need your top band front, which is the piece that's interfaced. Okay, I'm going to lay the other pieces aside. Okay, and then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to apply double-sided tape to the top and bottom edges of the exterior main panel. And the lining pocket. I think that's to attach the zipper. Oh, to the lining pocket. Let me see. I'm sorry, I'm reading and I'm not pre-read this piece, this part of the pattern. So my apologies if I have to look at this a couple of times. So you're going to apply double-sided tape to the top and bottom edges of the main panel front, exterior main panel, and the lining zipper pocket front. Okay, I see what they're doing. She's got it attaching it to the lining or to the panels and the lining versus the zipper tape. I'm just going to put it right on the zipper tape. To me, it's a little easier just to add it directly to the zipper tape. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my lining to my double-sided tape to my zipper tape. And I need to get my eighth inch tape here. I'm almost out of 1/8 inch tape, but there it is. I have one roll that is like almost completely gone, so I do want to get all that used up. Let me see if there's enough on here. Nah, this is it for the one roll, but let me go ahead and get this on here. My tape's not coming off. There we go. Sorry about that. I had to start a new roll of 1/8 inch tape here. My box is scooched. All right. And then let me go ahead and apply it to the bottom too, because we'll need it both the top and the bottom for this portion. But again, she's got you applying it directly to your project, which is totally fine. If you're not used to doing the zippers like this, you can do it exactly the way she tells you in the pattern. Okay, so then you're going to take your front panel get my lining piece off to the side. So you're going to take your front panel here, okay? I'm going to have to fold this down. I'm going to have to lock my pocket shut because it's going to be in the way. So if you've got a pocket, you need to go ahead and close your pocket because the top of the flap will interfere with this part. So you're going to take your pocket, and let me go ahead and lower the camera. I'm sorry, I almost always forget to lower the camera. There we go. That's better. Okay, so look, we're going to take your zipper. See, I went ahead and put double-sided tape on the front of my zipper versus on the directly onto my bag. Okay, so you're going to take your zipper and you're going to place it face down, right side down. So technically it'll be right sides together, with the bottom of your zipper tape to the top of your panel. Okay, remove that and then place it down. Just try to center it the best. I didn't mark my centers. I apologize. You do really want to mark your centers because typically when they have you put like zipper tabs on, typically they're a little longer than the piece. So that way you've got a little bit of leverage to move it around. Put my card here. You just need a little marker, just enough to mark where it's out of the view. I'm just going to put it in my seam allowance here, just at a little tiny mark so I know where the center is. And then you're going to, again, take it the bottom of your zipper and you're going to put it right sides together, center it, and then place it down where it sticks to your panel, and you're going to work from your centers out and placing that zipper tape on your panel like that. That's right in my seam allowance. Okay. And just watch your zipper pull. Your zipper pull might get in your way a little bit. You just kind of got to work around it. Let me just kind of get that to make sure it stays down. Give it a little, some pressure to hold it down. Okay. And then, let's see. And then you're going to take the lining zipper pocket. Okay. And then you're going to put it right side to the wrong side of the zipper. You're going to place your lining like this, face down. Of course, find your centers of the lining. So that way you can line it up with your zipper. And you're going to put the short edge down. So you're going to line it up with the short edge of your pocket. So you've got that long edge here, short edge, taking that, and that's what you're going to line up with the zipper. Now, I'm going to go ahead. I do need to put a little more double-sided tape down so my lining will stick. Now you can, if you want, at this point, since you've got your zipper stuck down with tape, you can clip your lining if you don't want to use so much double-sided tape. That's up to you, of course. But again, as I've previously stated, I love my double-sided tape. Plus this type of lining, this nylon lining, it is a little slippery, so I don't want to take any chances of it. I think I made my zipper a little too long. Let me measure my zipper. I might need to check my zipper real quick here. Okay. All right. So then what you're going to do then is you are going to sew this on like this. So you're making, again, essentially a zipper sandwich again. You're going to have your lining, again, face right sides to your bag front, but wrong side to your zipper. Again, your zipper should be face down on your bag. and then your lining like that, and then you're going to sew this at the seam allowance that she gives you in the pattern. And then stitch that down. I should have moved my zipper pull out of the way. It kind of veered off a little bit, so I need to just go back just a little bit. Now make sure your zipper pulls out of the way when you get to that point, because it will mess up your stitches. I need to sew the other end real quick here. Oop. My clips are sticking to my scissors because they've got they're magnetized because I keep them up on a magnet on my sewing machine. There we go. Okay. Of course, clean up your threads. All right, and then let me go ahead and change. All right, so then you're going to take your pocket and bring it to the back like that. So you'll be wrong sides together with your pocket and the back of your bag. And then fold it up like this to where your zipper is up, standing upright like that. Okay, and then you're going to press down your lining. Let me see if I can get it to work well. It's kind of hard with this. I'll tell you what, putting the interfacing on this with that turn lock, that was fun. I'm not going to lie. Of course, even if you used a thumb lock, that would have been just as fun as well. But so you're just going to push this down enough so when you're going to flip it back over, you're going to top stitch and do your 1/8 of an inch top stitch from the zipper to on the zipper panel. So you're going to top stitch and just go along this zipper panel at 1/8 of an inch away from that edge there. And if you've got like a lining like mine where it wants to pull up because of the type of material that it is, you just kind of want to hold on to it and keep it pulled. If you have cotton, you may be able to press it a little bit away from the back. If you're using a cotton lining, that would be advisable because that could help make it lay a little flatter. But I am going, since I can't, I am going to just hold on to it. I got to get my threads started. I'm going to get a hold of my threads. And then get it started. And of course, I back stitch. All right, get a hold of my lining and then just hold on to the bag. And I'm just trying to keep it as even as I can. Going slow. Well, I just sped up. That's fine. Just try not to tug at your zipper too much, because then that's when you get a zipper that doesn't look right. All right. All right, again, clipping my threads, keeping those clean. Okay, so then the next step that what you're going to do is flip it back over And then you're going to take this part of your lining and fold it up to the top of your zipper. Let me zip it back shut. Up to the top of your zipper tape, like that. So you're not going to see zipper tape from the back of the lining, like so. Okay, you're going to take it and you're going to attach it there. And go ahead and throw a little tape onto this. And this will, again, this just holds it on. You could clip it if you want. You don't have to use double-sided tape. But, as my tape went off just a little bit, and it would have got interfered. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and attach this with the tape. And I'll just hold it in place. Just make sure your lining is lined up with the edges, so you have a nice even pocket. And I'll show you here when I get done with it. You can see when I what it looks like before I sew it on. Okay, my zipper tape, my zipper double-sided tape needs to go down on the front. There we go. So again, it's lined up with the top of my zipper, so you don't see any zipper. So when you, so for example, if you unzip it right now, like unzip your pocket right now, you'll see the lining because we've got it attached to the top. So if you can see the little peak of my lining there. Okay, I'm going to zip that shut. And then what you're going to do once you attach that with the tape, you're going to grab your the upper contrast band, okay? And you're going to place it right sides together with the zipper tape. Make sure that you have it angled correctly. It flares out here at the bottom. This is the part that you're going to turn and you're going to place against the zipper tape. The more narrow type, this top here, and the top that does not have the stabilizer, that is the top of your bag. That's the part that will be not attached. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove my double-sided tape from the top of my zipper. Get this off, and then I'm going to attach my upper top, my top band for the front of my bag. Let me get my zipper pull out of the way a little bit. I do believe my zipper is a little long. I mean, I could adjust for that. I can fix that, but for some reason my zipper is a little longer than it should be. So make sure when you do your zipper, make sure it is exactly the way she gives it. I don't know that if I cut that too long or not. I apologize if I didn't pay attention. I'm marking my center on this because I need to make sure that this is accurately centered. So it's it does it correctly. All right. I just got to take a look here to make sure I have it centered correctly. Let's see. Having some troubles. Here we go. I think this gets it right here. That should do it. All right, I'm going to put a little clip on this end here just to kind of hold it a little bit. All right, so I've got this right sides together to my zipper tape in my bag like that, and then we're going to go ahead and sew it along here at the seam allowance that she gives in the pattern. I'm gonna hold my threads so they don't pull in. my zipper pull out of the way. Alrighty. And then we're going to take this, fold it up, and top stitch it just like we did the bottom part, except we're going to top stitch. We're not going to top stitch this on the zipper. We're going to top stitch this on the panel itself like we did on the bottom. So we're going to top stitch this. And if you can fold it, it wants to fold down, but you can't fold down onto the zipper because you can't top stitch on the zipper. It won't work. So I'm going to fold it up, get it under the machine, and then just make sure, because this zipper is flimsy, it wants to fold down towards the zipper, but you don't want it to do that. So just give it a hold on to it, and then just hold it down and do your stitching. You just kind of got to keep checking it and making sure you're staying folded with the seam allowance folded up towards the top band. I'm telling you what, I might just keep this bag for myself. I really like it. Of course, it's my colors, more or less. I really like it. All right. And it's got pockets. Love pockets. All right, so there is the front, and then you just snip off your leftover zipper tabs. Once you do that, you clean up your zipper tabs that are over. Now, you typically should have more than that on a zipper tab. I'm just going to tell you that my zipper is too long, because you should have more zipper tab showing in here, not sticking out that much. Apparently I measured my zipper wrong, which is fine. I can work with that as far as my pocket, my zipper pocket. But that's what it should. It shouldn't be that. You shouldn't have that. So you're going to then, after you do that, you're going to sew your zipper pocket shut. Now, when you have a zipper pocket that's that close like this, and you just have this much, you're going to sew it shut. But what you have to do is you start sewing. Let me fold this out. You're going to start sewing from right here as close as you can get to the bag, and then you sew straight down on the sides and to sew it shut. You do that on both sides. Typically, you can sew from the bottom up. That sometimes makes it easier to do that. You can get a little closer. I'm going to clip these because it'll hold it still. Because when you start flipping it around, it will shift your pocket, and then your pocket will be all bunchy. You don't want your pocket to be bunchy. So I'm going to clip this pocket lining so it doesn't get all messed up, and then it bunches up in my bag. But I'm going to start sewing from the bottom up, because that to me is easier to sew, and you can get as close to that rather than trying to put your presser foot down and the presser foot hitting up against this as far as the back of it. It's harder to adjust that way. I'm going to decrease my seam stitching because this is to sew this pocket shut. And I think she gives you a seam allowance, but I think I'm going to go a little, yeah, I think we're going to do what she suggests. So she gives you the seam allowance and how to sew it shut. So you get right up against it, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to sew as close as you can without messing that up, and then back stitch good so it doesn't pull open. And then I'm going to do that to the other side, but I'm going to move over. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to sew from the bottom up. and I'm just going to hold on to my bag, and then since my my pocket isn't much wider than my the throat of my machine, it'll be okay. I won't have to worry about having to scrunch it up just to sew this piece here, because again, I think this is the most, to me, it's the easiest way to sew pockets shut like this. You just got to kind of hold on to it and just keep it moving. Make sure your zipper and stuff is out of the way. A second here, I just got to work with it a little bit. And also make sure your zipper pull is not in the way either. All right. I got clippies flying everywhere. Okay. So there is my pocket. It is sewn shut. I've got me a nice little pocket for my bag. I'm going to keep my zipper towards the center of the bag, because when you sew it together, all the pieces together, you don't want your zipper pull in the way of sewing it together. So I'm going to keep my zipper pull in the center. So that is your front panel. Okay, so I'm going to move. Oh, she does have you do one more thing before we move on to the back panel. My apologies. You're going to add rivets to your strap connectors. She has you do that after after it's all done. So when you do your rivets, you want to make sure your pocket's out of the way, but she gives you measurements to where to put the rivets onto your strap connectors, and you typically put it right below the D-rings. Wow, my brain stopped there for a second. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that and attach my rivets. I'm just going to do a real quick marking and then attach my rivets. Let's see. And since this hole is going to be punched out, I can use this permanent pin here. Okay. And then you just gotta work. Now you may have to use, if you can't use this punch, because this might be a little hard, I do have my other hole punch that I can get out, but I'm gonna try to use this one. I like this one better anyways, but I might not be able to use it. Let's see what we can do here. Ah, I did it. Again, make sure your pocket's out of the way when you do this. Now, you may not want to bunch up your piece like that. That's up to you. You can get what they call those Japanese hole punch. They're just the single little hole punches where you just go down. If you don't want to do this, like me, we're trying to wrinkle it up. But I'm confident that these wrinkles will be fine. Or I can just just apply heat to them for them wrinkles to come out if they bother me that much. There we go. All right. And my rivets. And just like applying a rivet, you just, put your post in the front and your little cap in the back is the typical way of applying rivets. And since you've got all of these nice layers behind the rivet, you do not need to add any more anything else behind the rivet, especially since you do it after you apply the stabilizer, so you've got all of that extra layers to support your rivet. I'm going to keep these out so when I do the back, I don't need to have to dig them out. So I'm going to go ahead and set my rivet. I'm going to have to move this over because I need... Okay, so my front piece of my panel, my front panel is done. So I've got my rivet set, I've got my front zipper pocket on, and I have my top band on. So this is completed. Now the back one, I'm just going to briefly do it. We're going to do this a little quicker because we've already did most of it on the front. For honestly, all you have to do for the back panel is take your top band back piece, okay, and then right sides together to your back panel. Make sure your rec rings are out of the way. Take it face down. You don't need to put tape or anything because you're just putting vinyl to vinyl or whatever materials you're using. And then do make sure that you've got your centers marked so you can measure from the centers out to the edge of your panel, just in case there's like a small difference in the cutting, because it does happen, especially when you cut paper patterns by hand. There's always that little bit, and then that way you don't have, if there is like just a tiny bit off, it's equaled out on each end, and it's barely noticeable. Whereas if you just measured it from one end to the other, just like start it from the end and then went to the other side, if there is a little bit, of course it's all going to be pulled to one side and it's a little more noticeable. So we'll go ahead and get this clipped on. I'll get this sewed on. I will go ahead and sew this on. You don't have to watch me sew this on. And then once you get it sewn on, you're going to flip it up and you're going to top stitch on the top of the upper band. You're going to fold it up to where the seam allowance is going to be behind the band, and then you're going to top stitch on the band, not on the main panel, on the band. And then when I come back, we'll have that completed, and then we will move on to some, oh, and then after that, I apologize, I'll have the rivets set. So we'll get that done. You don't have to watch me do that again as well. We'll set the rivets. And then this will be complete when I come back. So there's no zipper pocket or anything. You're just attaching the band to the back panel is the final step of that, and then adding your rivets. And then once you do all of that, then you add your interfacing. Now this, oh, I forgot to say that. So this is what the difference was between the front and the back. So when you add all of this, then you're going to add your interfacing. The piece of Decoville that I have here is going to go all over the complete back. Now the reason why you wait until you get the top band done to put it on the back panel is because we have that zipper pocket that we had to install, and you couldn't install the zipper pocket if you had put the top band on without with the Decoville. You wouldn't have that. So you had to, and that's why you went ahead and put a little interfacing on the top band as well. So this way you put the Decoville on, or the heavy interfacing on, and then you'll put that on, and then that will cover up just where it needs to go from the top band, because again, you've got to make sure given the seam allowance that she gives in the pattern, your Decoville will go below that seam allowance because this is a drop-in lining. So you will need to make sure you don't have Decoville in that seam allowance or that area that she gives you, because you're going to fold down your top of your band. So then you put your interfacing on. So we will have all of that ready to go and completed when I get back. And then we'll start putting the actually we'll be putting the bag together once we do all of that. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. I got my all my purse feet on and set. I got that done. And I didn't do any coverage over this because there's something that I'm going to do at the end that's not in the pattern, but that I seen someone else do, and I really like the idea because of the purse feet. And if you reach into a bag, especially when you've got tall purse feet like this, I'm going to insert a piece of foam before I put the lining in the bag. So I'll show you that when I get to it. I have my back panel completed. I have my rivets set, my top band on, and my Decoville on. Again, you don't place your rivets to your strap connectors until you get your interfacing on. That gives it that nice firm layering to help hold them rivets in place. And then my front. So what we're going to do now is we are going to assemble the front of, or I should say the exterior of the bag. Before we do finalize the lining, we'll get the exterior sewn. I'm going to start with my front panel. So I'm going to put this panel aside and then grab my front panel. So I marked the centers of my top but not the bottom on this one. I was trying to have all my centers marked before I came back, and I neglected to do the bottom, and that's what I needed right now was the bottom. But we're going to put the base of the bag, not the base, but the bottom of the bag on. So you want to make sure your centers are marked, and then you're going to take your bottom of your bag and line it up to the centers of the bag. Now, what you want to pay close attention to is where you have these little divots here in your bag. You want to make sure your base of your bag does match those as best as they do. Mine are off just a smidgen, and it could have been my pattern piece. Again, you want to do the centers and go out. So if you've got that little bit of overage, you can work with that. So I'm going to get that clipped. Because like I say, it keeps everything at an even setting here. All right. So you're going to sew this on at the seam allowance given. And I need to double check the seam allowance real quick. I think it's the same. It is a little different at the bottom. When you're sewing the bottom exterior to the main panel, it is a little different than some of the other seam allowances, so pay close attention to her seam allowances given in the pattern. Don't assume that it's the same as the others. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get that sewn on. Again, make sure you back stitch. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, and this is just an extra step, I'm going to put another row of stitching right next to this row of stitching below it that's in the seam allowance. That just gives it a little more structure, as well as it helps with the pulling of the stitches. It kind of supports that front stitch. So again, but I'm going to start in just a little bit and then start my stitching. Again, I'm just going right along the next one, probably, I don't know, the 1/16 of an inch, maybe away, if that much. Just kind of check yourself and make sure you're not going over that line or on the line, because that would defeat the purpose. So just keep an eye out. And then just stop just short of the end, maybe 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch away from the end. And like I say, that just gives that little support to seams, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to open it up, and then you're going to push the seam allowance behind the base. You're going to fold it down like this. You will have to work with it, but you're going to fold it down, and then you're going to top stitch on the base. So you just kind of got to work your fold a little bit, especially if you have a more firmer base than you do have the bottom piece here. So I just got to give it a good press there. Oops, I would do all that pressing, and then I forgot to increase my seam stitch length. So I'm going to give that a press, hold it down, get it under my needle. If I can get it held down long enough to get it under my needle, will be good. Do a couple stitches in so I can, there we go. Now, just like we did the other, just kind of work with it. And then just stitch along there. There's one thing I noticed about my vinyl is that this vinyl is a lot softer than this vinyl, which I kind of knew that. And if I had thought about it, which I obviously didn't, I could have done some 101. And I mentioned this, I think, in the very beginning. If you've got thinner vinyls, you may want to do that. I could have done a 101 on the back of this. That would give it a little more stability for that. I mean, it'll still be fine. The bag will be fine still because it's got the 101, but it I think it would it would have made a little bit firmer bag, and sometimes I like a little firmer bag. But that's just something that I've noticed. So just kind of a side note to watch your vinyls when you construct a bag, and any bag. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to take your back of your bag, and then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to lay it, and it's probably easiest to do it this way. Have your one panel that's already got the base on there. Take your other panel, whether you do the front or the back, line it up. I've already got the centers marked on the back. I did remember to do the centers on the back panel, the top and bottom. Line them up like that, and I'm just going to hold them up like this and go ahead and get it clipped. Again, go from the centers out of your bag. Again, there's just a tad bit overage on each side, so I'm going to leave that. I think that might be intentional. So I'm not going to touch them because they're both equal on the same side. So we're going to leave it alone, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch this panel the back panel on since I haven't done it yet, the back panel on to the base of the bag at the seam allowance given. Make sure you decrease your stitch length as well when you go back and top stitching the sewing onto the pant pieces together. I always say that because I sometimes forget. I forget a lot. I'll be honest with you. So that's kind of why I mention it a lot. Mainly to remind myself, honestly. Okay, and then I'm going to do that second row real quick, which doesn't take long. And start in about 3/4 of an inch. There we go. Make sure I am, I'm still close enough to it without going over. Like I said, you don't want to go on the line. You want to be right next to it. Okay. And then get my strings cleaned here. So there you go. See, that's what I'm talking about, where it's right next to it, but not on it. That's what you, again, that's something that I've seen other bag makers do. It's not in the pattern. It just gives that, helps support those stitches. Again, we're going to top stitch this down on this side. And you're going to, this one is a little more difficult because you've got this, you've got it all big, this all big piece. So you just kind of got to work with your piece a little bit. Get your stuff out of the way and then just work with it. I'm going to have to put my threads out here and pull them a little longer so I can grab hold of them. All right. Put your seam allowance down towards the bottom. This is kind of sort of backwards, but it's easier for me to maneuver it this way because there's a lot less that I have to worry about going into the going under the machine. Just go slow. That's the advice I can give you. Go slow and just keep checking to make sure your seam allowance is going towards the base. There we go. Keep my piece straight. It's starting to turn a little bit. All right. So this is what you got right now. You've got your back panel, your front panel, and your base. So there's my bag there. So what you're going to do now is you're going to put them wrong sides together, and then you're going to clip down along both of the sides of the bag. What you want to pay attention to when you clip these back, when you clip them, is you want to make sure, you line them up with they're lined up at the top, like that, and then just clip down the side, as many clips as you're comfortable with. And then you're going to sew up the sides. Your biggest concern that you need to make sure you match up is your base panels. Those will meet. Since they're going to be meeting on the sides, you want to make sure they match up. If your lining is, one side is just a hair bit different than the other, that's probably because the way the seam allowance is on your zipper, which this is just, I mean, a 1/16 of an inch, so I'm not worrying about that, which tells me I did halfway decent on my zipper, which is quite surprising on my seam allowances on my zipper. I'm not going to be honest with you, I'm quite surprised because usually when you do zippers like that and you have to match up something to another side, you end up with sides, they usually don't match. And this one actually matches, so I must have gone a little wonky on my zipper on the one side. So I'm going to get this clipped up. We're going to get this sewn together. And then we will box off the bottom. And I'll show you how we box the bottom. I will pause to stitch up the sides because that's just standard straight stitching. Then I'll show you when I box off the bottoms. Let me check my seam allowance too. And then just watch the seam allowances what she gives you. Because it's a different seam allowance on the side than it is on the base. So like I said, just double check your seam allowances. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the pause, come back, and then I'll have these sides, both sides sewn, and then I will show you how we box up the bottoms. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. We got both sides sewn, and you can see the shape of the bag. Make sure when you sew it, you've got the shape of the bag included. And then on this, because you got a narrow seam allowance, you do not trim down your seams where you do on some bags, because you've got like a great seam allowance. You don't need it for this. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to box your corners. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to open your seam here at the bottom, open up your seam, and then take and fold it down. Now you can, if you want, before you sewed the base on, you could mark the center of the short edge as well. Typically, I find that if you get your bag to lay down correctly, you don't really need to worry about that. But if you are concerned about that, then you can fix that. I just had to get that little extra there. Okay, so go ahead and clip that. And then you're going to sew this again at the seam allowance that she gives you. And I think it's the same as the base seam allowance. I can tell you that. So it's not the same as the side. It's same as this, as when you sewed the base on. So we're going to get these sewn on. I'm not going to pause for this because this is a short sew. Just got to get it, work it in there. Get your mark here where it's at. Get my thread through. My thread came undone while I was doing the sides, so give me a second. There we go. Make sure you back stitch it well on the ends. And you sew all the way to the end, because that's your corner of your bag. And I do back stitch that kind of little, there we go. So you've got your one. And then get these out of the way, and then let's do the other side, and then we can turn it through and see what the completed bag exterior of the bag looks like. Again, you just want to make sure you open it, you push it down right. And again, if you do that well, you should not have to worry about it not being centered properly, but you should be fine. There we go. And then I'll get that in there. Alright, so my edges, my corners are done. Let me make sure. Yeah, you don't do any trimming here. I'm just going to check and make sure I don't. Yeah, I've got one that it peeks over just a hair, so I'm just going to clean that little extra piece up. I'm going to clean my corners, just get rid of that bulk on my corners. She doesn't say to do that, but I just want to clean those corners up because they stick out a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and turn the bag in right side out and see what it looks like. Let me back up a little bit. And then we'll move on to finishing up the lining, and then we'll put her together. You got to give me a quick minute here to push it through. There we go. I just got to be careful not to pull too much on that upper band because, again, like I said, it's very soft. I wish I'd have interfaced it a little bit more, but that's fine. It'll be fine. I just got to punch it with my fist. We're almost there. There we go. That corner poked out. All right. 2 corners down and 2 more to go. Check your corners, making sure they look good. All right, there we go. All in that cute. Let me pull the camera up a little bit and see if it shows a little bit better. Give me a quick second. There we go. Let me zip it up. Look at that. Isn't that cute? That is a really cute bag. I really like this bag. It's got a cute little shape to it. It's got like a little shapely shape purse to it. And then you've got that zipper. You got a zipper pocket. You got your front pocket. And then you got your back slip pocket. I love it. There you go. So there's the exterior of the bag. So the next step, we're going to be moving on to the lining. So I'm going to give it a pause, and then we're going to come back. We're going to finish up the lining, and then we'll put the whole bag completely together. Thanks. Okay, so now we are going to assemble the lining, finish the lining assembled, and then we will be able to do the completion of the bag. So first, with your lining, number one, you want to grab your zipper panel, your zipper placket that you've got here that we created in delivery number 1. You want to grab that, and then what you want to do is you want to find the centers of both sides of your zipper placket or zipper panel. However, you do it. Now, remember, the zipper pull is not yet been installed, and we still have a long tail on this because we'll work with that tail once the bag is complete. That's when I adjust whether or not I want to cut anything off of this, off the tail. Okay, so let's mark our centers on our zipper panel or placket, however you call it. I'm going to do some clips to hold it still. Or not hold it still, but you know what I mean, not to move it around. So I'm getting an accurate center because this does affect how your zipper ends, how your zipper looks when it's zipped up. Let's get the words out right. Okay. So get my centers marked, and then I'm going to unclip that. And then what you're going to do now, you can do this in 2 different ways. I completely pull my zipper placket apart to where it's one piece, or I'm only working with one side at a time. So I will separate this. However, if you're not comfortable separating your zipper panel or your zipper placket, you can go ahead and just put some stay stitching at the end of your zipper. Just go back and forth a couple of times at the very end, because again, you're going to adjust this and it's going to get snipped off before you put your zipper pull on. So, and that way you just unzip it to that end point. That's one of the reasons why some people keep their zipper, have a nice long zipper tail, so that enables you to work with it on both sides. And you've got your panels like separated pretty far, so when you sew it on. Again, I'm going to separate it. I think, let me look, she does in her pattern, she separates it as well. But again, you can do it without separating it by sticking your little stitches in and then opening your zipper all the way up to where the stitches are. Again, just go over it a few times. That will keep your zipper piece from going completely off. And then when you go to put your zipper pull on, you would just cut it off right above that where you sewed, and then put your zipper on. That's all you would need to do. All right, so my centers are marked, and make sure your centers are marked prior to you separating your zipper. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this apart, and then what you're gonna do is, let's work on our front panel first, meaning your pocket panel. And to me that's gonna be against the front of the bag, meaning the pocket that I have will be inside of the bag. It will be up against this part of the bag. is what we're working with, because that does make a difference in placement of this piece. So you want to grab the piece that has the tail going to the right. Let me put this in here. Okay. So again, your piece is going, your tail, well, let me see. Hold on a second. I got myself messed up. I'm sorry. You want it where the tail goes to the right, but going to the right with the placket face up. So again, face up on your zipper piece here, or your vinyl, and then your tail going off to the right of the bag. So you want to go ahead and match up your centers on this part here. Now, you can do, again, there's two ways of doing this. You can go ahead and baste this placket onto your panel at 1/8 of an inch basting stitch, just to hold it on and keep it still. So you do that before you do your lining contrast band. I typically just put it all together, but I will go ahead and do it this way for the tutorial. We'll just go ahead and sew it on this way, and then we'll move on to the lining contrast band. So we're going to go ahead and put this on. Again, we're just going to baste this on. Oh, I forgot. I apologize. I had to make another bobbin, and I forgot to rethread my machine before I turned the camera on. My apologies. But this shouldn't take me but a second to get machine threaded here. The only way that would take longer is if sometimes it wants to be a little fussy. Give me 2 seconds here to get this thread long enough. There we go. But yeah, I had to make a bobbin real quick because we're going to change out our bobbin before we put our final touches on the bag, because my bobbin is getting low. But I will pause the video when that happens. But all right, I think I might end up pausing it anyways, because it's taken an extra minute to get this threaded, and I apologize for that. Totally forgot to rethread before I put the camera on. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this. I cannot hold on to my thread. My hands are tired. So we're going to get this threaded real quick, and then I will be right back after I get everything threaded and the bobbin thread pulled up and everything. Be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to baste. Again, we're basting the zipper panel on, but this with the right side up on the lining. So we're going to go ahead and do a basting stitch on this. Always back stitch, even though you're basting. All right, and then you're going to grab one of your, whoops, I bumped the camera. One of your lining contrast band pieces. It doesn't matter which one, because they are the same. So you're going to grab one of those. All right, you're going to find the center of that piece. And I would go ahead and do the centers of the top and bottom, because you will need the center of the top prior, or not prior, but when you're finishing the bag. So you will need to just go ahead and get your centers for the top and the bottom. And then you're going to place it right side down, and you're going to make sure you put the large end, the longest end, this end here. This is what's going to go against your lining. The more narrow end is what goes at the top of the bag. So go ahead and put it to the centers. Now you can, if you want to, which I typically do, you can do the lining, the upper piece, upper lining piece, as well as the zipper placket part. You can sew it on at the same time. It's just, if you baste it first, you don't have to worry about it slipping while you sew. So typically, when I'm sewing on the domestic, I would probably do the placket first, and then that way you're not worrying about it slipping due to the layers. Okay, let me get my seam allowance for this. Let me see if she's changed this one. Okay, so go ahead and sew it on at the seam allowance that she gives in her pattern. Get my threads out a little bit. I cut them too short. All right. This goes there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get this on. Again, always back stitch, like I know I say it all the time. Okay. Whoops. There we go. I keep hitting my light. All right. So then you're going to take this piece here. You're going to fold it up. And then you're going to fold your zipper placket, your zipper piece here. And you're going to fold that up as well. And then you're going to fold your seam allowance. I'm looking here. Just everybody's a little different. You're going to fold your seam allowance down towards the bottom or the lining, main lining of the bag. I'll show you here. Let's give me a little fold. So you're gonna fold it down this way. Is your seam allowance of your upper piece and your zipper placket, and you're gonna top stitch right below on the lining below your zipper placket, fold it up, and your upper lining piece here. So you're gonna do a top stitch here. Directly on the lining, again, making sure your seam allowance is pointing down. Give that a top stitch. Whoa. Okay. This completes the lining panel for one of your pieces. All right, so you are completed now. This is ready to be sewn when we finish the other side, but this is done as far as getting this completed. This goes over just a tad bit, so I'm going to give this a quick little, there we go. I wanted that evened up a little better. Okay, so I'm going to set this piece aside, and then for the other side, it is going to be the exact same. You're going to put, and I'm going to go ahead and do it all in one sitting, sew it all on. You're going to put your zipper panel up. Always make sure, because what the reason for this, and I don't think I explained it, is this is going to get folded up like this, and that's what you want. So you want to make sure this is face up, and your zipper tail is going to go in the opposite direction of your other lining. I'm going to put a clip here just to hold it in place for when I put the lining. And then I'll show you on this one how I do it without all at once versus doing basting and then adding this. So I'm just going to clip it just to hold this in place, and then I'm going to take my upper lining piece, get my centers marked. All right, and then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to put this down. So again, this is how I do it. I clip it like this to hold my zipper placket in place, and then I'll just take the clips that are there and hold on to my piece, and then just clip those, and then I will, like that, and then I'll go in and then fill in the rest. Just a couple of clips that holds it in place until I get in and finish it off. I just do it because, I mean, it's quicker. I am a rush sewer. So I will, if there's a way I can, honestly, if there's a way I can make it go a little faster by doing something like that, where you do it all together, I will find a way if I can, or if I see somebody else doing it that way, and I see that I can do it, I'll do it as well. But if you are worried about that you know, it might mess up or whatnot, obviously do what makes you comfortable. If you're, you know, worried about it, then you don't want to, then obviously do not do it. Okay, so once you get that done, go ahead and do the exact same thing. Top stitch, folding both of these pieces up in the air. Seam allowance pointing toward the bottom of the bag. Give it your top stitch. Whoa. This machine, she can go. She can go if I lay that pedal. And if I have a needle positioner on here, and I can work the speed a little slower with this needle positioner, where I can make it where it's not, where I can control the speed a little better. So, which I'm glad I got the needle positioner. Okay, so we're done with this. Now, there's one more thing we got to do to this panel before we start sewing it together. It makes it a little easier if you do it now. You're going to go in and you're going to mark you're going to make a mark on the, based on the allowance that she gives you. You're going to go and make a mark here. Nobody's going to see it, so it can be with a permanent pen. You can, if you want, before you attach it to the bag, you can make your mark before that. That way you don't have to worry about it being attached to the bag. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to let me get me an ink pen. Ink pen will show up better. Even if this is black, I could use my chalk pen. Let me do my chalk pen I think's on my cutting table. So we're not going to do my chalk pen. I don't have it within reach. So I'm going to lay this down. We're going to go in and mark what she gives you. Let me make sure this is the same as the, she actually tells you, which I should have noticed, she actually has you put the marking, okay, so she's got it based on the pattern piece. So let me grab the pattern piece. I'm going to measure off the pattern piece. Okay. That's interesting. That's a different number. So let me do that. I'm just going to make this mark here so I can see it. It's really hard to see. I do need to find my, there it is. Actually, I did put it back after I used it. I used it at my cutting table, and apparently I did put it away. Go figure. All right, so I'm going to mark this with my chalk pencil, because of this black backing. Nothing. Sometimes the ink pen, I can get it to show up on the black, but this is not working. So you got your line here. That's the line that you're going to need, because you're going to fold your top down to that line. And you can too also go ahead, which I'm going to go ahead and add a row of double-sided tape at the very top of the lining. I'll show you here in 2 seconds. Let me get this one marked as well real quick. Again, it should be easier to do. If you do this before you sew it on, that would probably be a lot smarter. And she does show you in the pattern to do it beforehand. Obviously, I didn't follow that step. All right. So that's marked. Let me put that away. And then I'm going to get my double-sided tape. And I'm just going to make a line along here with my double-sided tape. Because again, this is a drop-in lining. So, and I am beginning to like drop-in linings. The first time I did one, I was a bit nervous. I was afraid I couldn't make it look right at the top. Versus when you do a birth bag, your top is already got that, to me, like a clean edge. I don't know how else to word it. But I'm beginning to like drop-in linings for 2 reasons. It's easier for my hands, and I'm getting better with it. Okay, so then what you're going to do, once you get all that taken care of, you're going to put your linings right side together, and you're going to go ahead and clip down both sides, just like you're sewing the the bag itself. But what you want to do when you sew your lining pieces together, you want to make sure that these two match up. So make sure you get those matched up first. And then I clip before and after it. And that holds that piece. And then go ahead and get your clips put in. It works at the top, which is great. Sometimes you may have a little smidgen. If you have that, you might be able to work it in. If it's not a whole lot, you could probably work it in your sewing. But I must have done something right. I don't know. I don't know how. Sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes I will have it out. So on the other side where your tails are and they're sticking out, I would just go ahead, take one, fold it in, and just kind of clip it like that. Just fold it like that and then just give it a clip to the rest of the other zipper just to hold it out of the way so you don't accidentally zip it or sew it, or it just gets in the way and it annoys you. So again, we're matching up where our lining top meets the lining itself, and then get that clipped up. Let's see. And then work your way to the rest of the side. You're going to sew these sides, both sides up, just like the main exterior of the bag. You're going to sew up the sides closed, and then you're going to sew your corners. And then you're going to sew, since this is an open, first of all, you sew your sides. I'm sorry, I'm telling you wrong. You sew your sides shut first, then you sew your bottom shut. Pay attention to the seam allowance, because sometimes the seam allowance is different when you're sewing a lining. Sometimes pattern designers will build in the way you cut your lining pieces. Sometimes they build that in, but a lot of pattern designers just have you sew an increased seam allowance so you don't have a baggy bottom. So let me take a quick look. Okay, so she does have you adjust the seam allowance. So you start out at the top, and I usually do like where the band is, because that's where the tightest part of the bag is and where it's going to notice the most. I will sew the regular seam allowance at the top, and then I will increase it once I get into the bottom of the lining. And she does give you what you should be sewing it at. In the pattern. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to get this sewn. And then once I get the sides and the bottom sewn, I'll be back before I sew we'll do the little corners. I'll do that on camera, but I'll get the sides sewn and the bottom sewn real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. So glad I paused that, because I ran out of bobbin, and then when I didn't put my thread back in place because it was stretched out, I had broke threads and all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm glad I had that pause when I was doing all that. But anyway, so I've got my sides, both of my sides sewn shut, and my bottom sewn shut. Now all I have to do is sew this shut. But what I'm going to do first is you want to trim down your seam allowance on your lining. Trim it down to about 1/8 of an inch away. But you do not want to trim up at the top, just down here towards just the sides here, 1/8 of an inch. Now I do cut this down to 1/8 of an inch right here, because that's bulk that will show up in your lining, but that's where I veer off at. I'll just trim that little bit off of there, and then you've got a clean, nice, thin, and you don't have that bulk of it in there. So I'm going to trim down the other side. Now, sometimes I will not trim all the way to the bottom. Sometimes I will leave that and just trim about 3/4 of the way in for when I do my lining. But this is a thin lining, a nice lightweight lining. So I can just turn my seams to the side like you're quilting. And I'll show you here in just a second. I just wanted to stop and show you this. What you need to do, because again, that gives you a nice I gotta, oh, and I just remembered something. I need to go get my foam for my base of my bag, but I'll get that here in just a second. I almost forgot to go grab it. So there you go. So you've got that nice trimmed lining. So then you're gonna just do it just like your, you did the exterior of the bag. You're gonna pull this out, and then you're gonna obviously have your centers. If I can grab hold of it, you're gonna have your centers. I'm gonna try to do this so you can see it. Get your centers and pull it out. Pull it out like this. And then what you can do is you're just going to take one side of your seam allowance, and then take it to one side, and then take your other side of the seam, and then just take it to the other side. And then, like if you're a quilter, you will like just nest the seams together like that. You can see how it's one side to the other, and then clip it. Now, again, if it was a thicker or a heavier lining, I would just leave my seam open, leave my seam at just about a 1 inch, then trim it down and leave this at the regular seam allowance, and then open them, and then just sew with my seams open and match it from there. But we're good with doing this because it's not a lot of bulk on that piece of the lining. I'm going to do that to the other side real quick. Open it up, push the seams opposite the seam allowance, or the seam, I guess the seam allowance. I don't even know what I don't even know the proper terminology, but press the seams in opposite directions, and then go ahead and clip. And then we're going to sew this at the seam allowance that she gives you, which is the seam allowance that's given for the bottom part of the lining where you do your increased seam allowance. Just keeps that bottom, gives you a nice, what word I want to say? It gives you a nice clean interior of your bag. So that's done, and I'm going to go ahead and trim this side, these little corners as well, just like I did the sides for that bulk. Get this one done. And then once I get this done, I'm going to go grab my piece of foam, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Actually, the foam idea, I'm going to tell you this while I'm sewing. The foam idea I got that I'm going to do, I got this from Chris from Simply Classic, and I really like it. And I've been starting to do that recently because I heard her do it in a tutorial. And it's an older tutorial. It's not a new tutorial, but I heard her do it, talk about it. And I really like it because once she mentioned it, I really thought about it. And I'm thinking, you know, that's correct. But when you push into your bag, if you put your hand in your bag, you can feel the purse feet. Even if you can cover up the rivets if you want with tape, that's fine. But you're still going to feel the purse feet at the bottom of the bag. Again, especially when you have the larger purse feet like this. And that foam helps with a little bit of layer and a little cush to help with that. And I did notice the little difference in that. So I'm going to go grab my piece of foam real quick that I forgot, and then I will be right back. Sorry. Come back. So I have my piece of foam, and this is just plain old Pellon foam. It's not, it's the, I guess you could call it, it's the cheaper foam, but it's just a plain old piece of foam that I don't even think it's just, sew-in foam is what you'd call it. So I cut this, in case anybody's curious, I cut this 4 by 12 inches. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this in here before I put the lining in, set this at the bottom of my bag. It's just loose. You don't need to really do anything. If you're worried about it sliding a little bit, what you can do, I have this 1-inch tape. Actually, I got this off of Amazon. It's just cheap 1-inch double-sided tape that I can use. And you can just throw a couple strips of tape underneath it on the back of it. I should cut that rather than tear. Give it a little more of cleaner cut. Just you can do a little bit of double-sided tape. That can help hold it in place a little better. Or you could just set it in there. It's up to you. But of course, if you're worried about it sliding, you can do a little bit of double-sided tape. Just make sure it fits when you put it in. Make sure it's not too big where it sticks up and causes bulk or, you know, noticeable puffing at the bottom of your bag. Or it's too small where it's noticeable because you've got, you know, dips in your bottom of your bag. So I've got my double-sided tape on there. I'm going to take it and I'm going to set it down in this bag and just kind of get it worked in the corners. And this should just cover it. It does almost perfect. I probably could have added a 1/2 inch or 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, but it sits, to me, it looks like, I'll kind of try to show it to you and just give it a push down. Oh, that works, I think. Works almost perfectly. So 4 by 12, if you can see, there's my foam sitting at the bottom of the bag like that. And again, that's all that does is when you reach into your bag, you're not feeling a ton, you know, you're not feeling those purse feet as much as you would. Okay, so what you're going to do now that you've got your lining put together and your exterior bag, you're going to make sure, what you're going to do is you're going to put double-sided tape along the top edge of your bag, okay? I'm going to go ahead and start lining, and then you're going to do it right at the top edge. I do use 1/4 inch tape for this because when you fold it down, you've got a little bit of room from that. Make sure your seams on the side of your bag are open. They're open when you do this. You can, if you want to, put this on before you assemble the bag. It does make it a little easier, but you can do it like this at this time too. It depends. I think it depends on the designer. Sometimes the designer tells you to do this after you put it together. And that's what I'm kind of used to. But I think she has you do it first as well on her bags. But I'm just so used to doing it after it's constructed. I don't even think twice about it. All right. I'm just trying to hold on to my tape as it goes around. Just try not to make your tape hang over the top of your bag, because then you have your tape's not going to secure as well. So back to the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and there we go. So I'm at the beginning. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take off your double-sided tape. Now you can take it off just a little bit at a time. Let me just check something real fast. I want to make sure I am folding it correctly with the marks. I just got to double my marks. I did not do a good job marking my top because I tried to mark it with a darker pen, in which I know that I should have done that. I should have went ahead and used this. So I'm just going to give it a reminder mark here. And that'll help me. That'll just guide me a little bit better with my dropping when I do this fold down. I want to show you how I fold this down. So you got your mark on your lining, and then you're going to go ahead and start unpeeling your tape, and then you're going to fold your top of your lining down to that line. And I'll show you here just a second what I'm doing. Let me get this side. I'll show you here. Before I finish it, I will show you parts of the way. And you just be careful when you get to these corners. Just be careful because they can get bulky when you fold them down, or they'll want to bunch up. So you just kind of got to work with them. And so this is what I'm doing. It's going to be hard because this is the black. The vinyl is black, and then the backing of the vinyl. And I'm going to try to hold it real close so you see it is folded down like that. So you've got a finished edge at the top, a fold over edge at the top. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to go all around the edge of the top of the bag and fold all of them down. You're going to do the exact same thing with the lining. Fold the top down to the line, not past the line, but up to the line. And then once you get all that completed, and once I get that all completed, I'll be right back. But I'm going to sit there and do all the folding real quick off camera so you don't have to sit there and watch me fold linings and bag tops. And then I'll be back. I'll show you before I put the lining inside the bag what it looks like completed. So I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So what I did, I'll show you. It looks, you can see it better on the lining. So see, it's all folded down all the way around the lining. So you've got that nice finished edge at the top. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to drop your lining inside your bag. Now, because I sew on a flatbed machine, and when I have a bag where the top of the bag is a little narrow, I guess you could say, I have to turn my bag inside out and sew it so the lining is outside of the bag, so I can have my top, my stitching, my finished top stitching with my top thread to show on the exterior versus my bobbin thread to be on the exterior. I hope that makes sense, because if I were to try to sew it, because I have to sew it from inside the bag out like this versus like this, like I would sew it like this, like if I had an arm that I could put in here, like, or a cylinder arm, or if I were to sew this on a domestic, I could take the little tray off and then try to tilt it to make an arm for it and sew it with the arm like this, and I could sew it like that. It would give me a nice stitch, but I don't always like or trust the bobbin thread to give me a better stitching. My top stitching on my bobbin thread always, to me, looks better on the lining. It's just the way I feel about it. It's hard for me to explain. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this bag back inside out. Typically, though, you sew it with the lining in it from the bag. Again, I'm just doing this so I get the top stitch that I want. So if you can just give me a minute here to get this turned right back out. Just be careful because we stuck that piece of foam in there. I know it's a little rough on your bag to do it this way. If you get a little wrinkle here or there, you can always apply a little heat to it to help it. I'll be honest with you, and I don't know that I would recommend this for everybody because I don't want anybody to ruin their bags. But my daughter has like the little heat guns that she uses for things that she makes, and I can use that and just hold it away from it, and then just really carefully just apply a little heat, press it with my hand, a little heat, press it with my hand. If you're, but again, like I said, I don't recommend to do that. It's just what I'll do, what I can do, or a blow dryer. That's probably maybe a little safer because those heat guns do put out a lot of heat. But, yeah. So, and you can see the lining now. So I've got it all folded down, or not the exterior. All of it's folded down on the exterior. So since I had to turn my bag inside out, I need to turn my lining right side out, or else it won't look right. My lining will be wrong. So I'm going to put these wrong sides together because, again, I got to top stitch it differently. I know I hope I am not confusing you. It's just so I can get that top stitch that I want. So when you drop your bag or your lining in your bag or your bag in your lining, however you want to say it, make sure you have it positioned the way you want. Now this will be a tight fit because of the way I have to do it. But if I can get the bag inside the lining, it'll fit at the top. It's just the bag will be a little snug. You just kind of got to work with it. And all I got to do is flip it. not rather than birthing the bag through a hole. Now you could do it that way, but I'd still have to top stitch it like this. So it's fine. It's workable and doable. I've done it before. So when you put your pieces together, when you're doing a drop-in lining, which you put your pieces together, you're going to match up your sides. Give that a good clip. I'm going to get out my heavy clips. Now I got these heavy clips off of Amazon. I really like them. They're really strong clips. They're inexpensive. At the time I bought them. I don't know what they are now, but these are very good grips. They have rubber tips. They are big, but they have rubber tips, and they really hold your bag. They really hold your pieces together. So you're going to match your sides first. At least this is how I do it. I match the sides first. Give that a clip. That'll hold it still. And then you're going to go to the center of your bag, and you're going to match your centers. Now, obviously, you don't have that clipped edge or that marked edge since you folded it down, but you can. If you look closely, you can see where you had your marked previously. You can match those up. And I'm just going to do it that way. And that's how I match those up. And I'm going to give that a clip. And I'm going to go to the other side and match that up. Takes me a second. There we go. This dark vinyl with this dark backing, you don't always get a dark backing with the vinyl. I mean, I like that it's a nice dark, but you don't always get that, and it makes it hard to see. So then what you're going to do to finish out this, because you're going to see it looks all puffy and doesn't look like it's going to fit, you're going to work it. Each side, you're going to work your vinyl and match all the tops of your folded edges and just kind of work it. It should work it. It should work itself in place. If you find that you got a small pucker, I mean, if you want to adjust it just a tad bit, you can, but I would not adjust it a lot. Typically, it should work itself out, especially when you take it to the machine. And as long as your seam allowances are good when you sew them up the bag, you shouldn't have any puckers. It may look like it. It's just because when you've got all that bunched in together like that, you may get some puckers. And it's not puckers that because it's not sized right. It's puckers because it's just bunched. As long as you hold it with your hands, you got that support like that, and then you can just push it together, and you can see it works out really well. I'm going to show you this here in 2 seconds. I got to get it to shake it down a little bit because it wants to be up higher than my, they don't want to match, so I just kind of got to work them. I think that should work. So there's my clips at the top of my bag. Because it's all clipped together. And then I'm going to top stitch all along this bag here. But I have, like I say, the way I have to sew it, I've got to sew it with my needle coming from the inside of my bag versus sewing it like this, because it's not big, the opening is not big enough, and I don't have a cylinder arm or an arm on my machine. It's because I'm sewing on a flatbed. It won't work with this. So you want your top stitching length. Let me get some of this stuff out of my way. I have got clips galore right in my way, and if I don't move them, I will end up hitting them while I'm sewing and causing me to make my stitches go a little cattywampus. And that's the last thing I want on a final top stitch. Because I'm going to tell you what, a top stitch can ruin an incorrect or a bad top stitch can ruin a bag. I have a gorgeous, gorgeous red bag that I sewed. It's the bag that made me want to buy an industrial machine. It's a beautiful bag, and I probably could never sell it because it is my domestic machine ripped the vinyl a little bit. I mean, it's not like terribly ripped, but it's ripped just a little bit. And it's just, to me, I don't know that I could ever sell it. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous bag. It's all red. It's a real pretty red bag. Okay, so you're going to start. I typically start in the back of my bag. Now, since I'm using a contrasting thread, I'm going to pull my threads through this bag. When I get done sewing this, I will show you how I do it. I'm not going to backstitch, because if you backstitch, it will be noticeable, and then it won't give it a nice clean look. But you can actually pull your threads through when you do your lining. It's just done a little differently than the way we did it earlier. So I'm going to start stitching, and what I'll do is I'll end up fast forwarding this part rather than pausing. I'll just keep going and then just do a fast forward, so you don't have to watch me do it completely. But I'm going to get it down. I'm going to hold my final down and then get my foot lifted. But I'm going to take off my clips and then just make sure it doesn't shift. And you're going to do this again at a top stitch length. And make sure your threads are long, and actually make sure they're a little longer than you would normally, because that will help do the pull through in the end when we finish off this bag. So just kind of watch it. I need my light to move. So let me turn my light so I can see this side of the bag. There we go. That's better. I need to see on this side. And then if you need to work with your vinyl, because sometimes it will shift a little. I'm looking for my screwdriver. I can't find it, of course. You can get, a lot of people have been using flathead screwdrivers, and that keeps it from poking your bag. And of course, mine is not here, so I'm going to use a smaller flathead screwdriver, which it's not my favorite, but you can use that screwdriver, and you can hold your pieces down, and then that way you're not poking it like with a stiletto. So let me hold my thread so they don't draw in, and then you're just going to sew around it again at the top stitch. And I'm going to advise you, go slow when you do this, because you don't want your top stitch of your bag to look crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and get this sewn together, and then I will be back, and then I will show you how we do the threads, pull the threads through on this style of top. So I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So I've got it completely top stitched. A couple of notes. When you top stitch, make sure as you go around, your zipper panel stays down, because otherwise you'll get your zipper panel will get caught in your top stitching. It happened, I got a couple stitches on my top stitching, so I had to stop and fix that. Otherwise, I did pretty good on my top stitching. I think it will look well. So, when you get to the end, where you started on your bag here, so we've got my threads really long. I'm going to show you how to tie these off and hide your stitching. Is you're going to keep, again, make sure you end in the same hole you started with. That's very important. If you have to hand crank it, which I did, to make that end meet, that's what you'll need to do. And then you've got your you got 4 long threads. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull the threads through to the lining side. So I forgot, I was messing up, to the lining side. So you want to go ahead and get your threads pulled through to the lining side. Make sure and be careful when you do that, so you don't have a missed stitch when you pull them through. Here's the one. And then we get the other one. I should have pulled my beginning stitch through first. There we go. So you're going to pull them through till they're both on the same side, which in the lining side is what you want to pull it through. This one is wanting to struggle. This is why you pull your threads through your first or your starting thread through before you end it, because it can get caught in there. Just kind of give it a, just be careful when you pull it through. There we go. So we got that. And then when they're pulled through, you're going to grab your threads. You need all four. Oh no, I think I might have pulled the wrong thread. I did. I got to be careful. See, I wasn't careful. I wasn't watching. I pulled the wrong thread through, but that's okay. We can fix it. Okay, so once you get your threads pulled through to the lining, you're going to get a large eye needle where you can get all four threads threaded through that needle. So when you got your long threads, you want to trim the threads off when they're even. They're all the same length, okay? And then you're going to put all four threads through the eye of that needle. Now I laid my needle down instead of putting it back on the magnet. And I am going to do the old-fashioned, wet it down so they stick together, and you're going to do your best to get all four of these threads put through the eye of that needle. I have one where the eye's a little bit bigger, but I think we can work with this. Well, there's two got through, so we're getting there. We got two at once, so let's try to get these other two in here. There we go. I think I got them all in. Nope, nope. Just the two. All right, let's keep doing it the old-fashioned way. Thread them through. There we go. There's another one. I think, maybe. Nope. All right. They all want to be stubborn. Just hold it. You just got to hold it still to get that final thread through. Let me push these down and get some room here. There we go. So pull the threads through. So you got all four threads through the eye of that needle. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go back and thread it right through the center of this, of the lining side. But when you thread it through, you're going to come up. When you thread it through, you're going to come up through the center where the two panels are sewn together. So you just want to be careful when you push that needle through. And then just angle it up and come up through the center. And I'll show you here 2 seconds as I get it to bring it up so you can see. Ouch. I need a little, I don't have a thimble. I don't use thimbles when I sew. So you're going to, wow, poo. This vinyl is very, even though it's a soft vinyl, doesn't like the needle. There we go. Got to give it some encouragement. So see, your needle is going up through the center like that. So you're going to pull all four of those threads up through that space there. Get a hold of it and push it, pull it through. There we go. Take it all the way up and pull it tight. So you're, so you don't, it's all tight here on the inside. Okay, bring it up. Keep it threaded so you don't lose that thread. And then you're going to tie a knot or two in your threads. And just try to keep it obviously below that needle. So you're going to tie it tight down as far as you can go. Let me get my threads. They're wanting to not tie equally. There we go. Give it a nice good knot tight. Well, of course I tied it around the eye of the needle because that's just the way I go. We're all, isn't it? Silly, silly me. All right. Well, I'm not doing a very good job showing you because I just cut it through the eye of the needle, tied it to the eye of the needle. That's okay. We're going to work with it, and I'll just cut the needle off. Okay. I'm going to cut it right above the eye of that needle to the, I can't even see. It's knotted right there, so I'm going to end up having to have really short threads, and I just threw my needle off the table. So then you're going to take this and then you're going to have it back on the needle. So my advice then is probably try not to do it that way, because like I said, I just shortened my threads really short. But that's okay. We can work with it. And then you're going to tie it off, then put your needle back on. And I got to go grab my needle. It went off my table when I let go of it. It's right here. Give me 2 seconds. I'll try not to. There we go. I got it right here. Rethread your needle. Don't do like I just did. Typically, your threads should still be long. They shouldn't be this short when you do this. This probably will be really, really tight when I take them back down through the center of the bag, but that's okay. Now, typically when you do this, you have an opening in usually your zipper pocket, and then you can, or at the bottom of your bag where it's berthed, and you can just pull the needle out from that. But I'm going to show you how I get my needle out without having a needle at the bottom of my bag. But if I have a longer threads, it would be a lot easier. But you're going to take your needle, rethread your needle, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to take these threads and then just take them and bring them right down into the bag. Again, I'm using a long needle and I don't have a lot of room with my needle. You typically are supposed to tie it and put it right back down the same hole, but I don't have that room to do that. So my needle is not going in the right spot. I'm not going to be able to get my threads down. So that's what you should be doing. I apologize. I didn't do a very good job showing you, but your threads should be long. You should put them right back through the needle, okay? And then take your needle and take it straight back down in that spot, and that'll pull your threads down into the bag. So it's the threads are down in the bag here. And then you would just leave your threads long and not worry about trimming them. And then if it's not a burst bag and you can just pull out through the bottom of the bag, what you can do is after you take the needle and take it down in there, I usually just take the needle, turn it, and come right back out, and the threads are left off inside the bag. But because I messed up and I had to cut my threads, I got to get my threads down in there. So I'm just going to do a snip, which is not ideal. You really don't want to do this, but I'm going to snip it above where that knot's at. So those threads obviously aren't shown, but you really want those threads down in your bag. But this will be okay. This won't show in the bag. So that's the top stitching on the bag. So now I'm going to turn it right back outside because this bag is now almost completely finished. We got to put our straps on. So let's turn it right side out. This is going to take me a quick minute to do this. And I know this is a longer video. I've tried to cut out as much as I could. But since this is the final construction of the bag, and usually when you get to the final construction of a bag, it takes a little longer because you've got all those little final steps to complete a bag. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, my bag's done. And then I'm like, oh no, I still got to put straps on. You know, I still got to top stitch. So it's like sometimes you just think you're done, and then it's like, no, you're not really done. You got to do those final little touches on the bag. So it's just taking me an extra minute to push the bag through. Let me just grab a hold of this and pull it through. There we go. Let me just take my hand and punch out corners back out with my lining. It'll flatten my lining a little bit and shape it up. This lining, I'm telling you what, this lining absolutely looks, I'm not going to lie. I know it's my bag. I know I'm the one that created it. This lining absolutely goes so well with this bag. It's amazing. I mean, look, the colors. And when I picked the colors, I just know I wanted to use these colors, like I said. And then this was one of my, and then I grabbed the lining. And this is one of my favorite linings from Tulip Bee. It's the Zen Blossoms. It's that, it's her smoothie smooth. I love it. And it just matches. All the colors just look great. I'm sorry, I'm admiring my bag right now. Okay. So, unclip your zipper, get that extended back out. Let me back up a little bit so you can see. And then grab your zipper pull. And I'm using this really cute zipper pull that says handmade on it. Typically what I'll do sometimes is I'll put like handmade label here or here. I mean, I'll put something like that in the front that says handmade. I typically do that. But I didn't have any for this bag. And since I was using the zipper that said handmade, I didn't think I needed to put it on there twice. I mean, so we just put that on. Some people use, I think I already said this, some people use zipper jigs. Some people just do it the way I do it. If you want a good tutorial on how to do this without using a zipper jig, I learned mine from Sally Tomato. Jess does a little video on how to do it. And it's an older video, but there is a video out there. Zip it up. Make sure your, when you're zipped up, make sure your, where your zipper ends, where your zipper stops, make sure that lines up well, which mine does. So we're good there. And then you want to look at your zipper and see where how far you want it to go out. I like just a tad bit longer to extend because it can be tucked down in because it's not a closed off zipper. It's actually a very nice zipper placket. It really covers. Sometimes the zipper placket, you'll have larger gaps, but this really has got a nice closure. But anyways, I'm still going to leave it out just a little bit. So I'm going to close this off. I think I'm going to cut it like right about here. That way, when I unzip it, it'll stop. Let's show. So when I unzip it, I want it the zipper to stop outside the bag. So when I open it up, the zipper doesn't stop me from opening it. But the zipper, if I end the zipper right at the end of the zipper panel or right at the end of the bag, I feel constricted getting in the bag because the zipper is going to stop you from fully extending the bag if you need to get in, especially since this bag has a more narrow top than bottom. So I'm going to go out just a little bit. I'm going to decide where I want my zipper to stop and feel like I've got that space. And then I'm going to just cut off my zipper. I'm going to do a snip just so I know where to stop. And then I'm going to zip back up a little bit just so I don't have that zipper pull at the very end. And then I'm going to stop it right there. Now, you can put a zipper end, zipper tip. There's got little zipper ends that you can put that gives you a nice finish at the end of the bag. You can put like a piece of vinyl. If you fold it just right, you can have a nice end to your zipper. I'm going to get me a zipper tip and put that on. Honestly, I don't want to do that on camera because it takes a minute. And we've already gone for quite a few minutes, so I don't want to extend this any more than I have to. So we'll go ahead and stop there because we still got to put the zipper panel or the zipper handles on. So I'm going to tuck that in, give that a tuck, so that way you can finish it off. And when you got your zipper, you can finish it off that way. And I'm going to show you how to do these handles. And then what I'll do is I'll finish putting the handles on and then bring it back and show you the completion of the bag. So with your handles, you're going to put the handle where when you lift it up, because see, these are, you've got one edge that is like a finish, the rolled side, and then the other side where you've got where you put it together. That's the side that when your handle is upwards like this, you want that folded over the meat where it meets. You want that towards the inside of your bag, and you want that nice rounded finished looking edge on the exterior of the bag. So like when you got your handles up, you want it to be like that. So typically what I do is I'll hold it like this, and then I will bring my handle down so I can remember which position, and then you're going to go up through the direct ring. So you're going to go up like that, and then you're going to fold it over. She gives you measurements in the pattern where you want to place a rivet, because these get riveted on, they do not get sewn on. So she gives you a measurement to put rivets on. Now there are a couple of things that you can do to the end of your straps. You have what they call strap ends. They're very nice and they're very pretty, and it adds a little bit of style. So when your bag is folded, when your strap is down like this, it gives it a nice finished edge. I do not have strap ends right now that fit my bag, so I cannot finish it with strap ends. I may, when I purchase more, I may go ahead and finish that off that way, but right now I can't. So I will just put my rivet and leave it like that. You can do that. Another option, which may be a little hard, you can do a finished edge, and I honestly don't know that I could do that or even tell you how. You may not Google it, but go in YouTube and search to see if you can find finished strap ends, and maybe there's a tutorial out there. There's 1,000 of them, of tutorials out in YouTube, but maybe there's one to finish that off. You can do that as well. So that's a couple of options, or just leave it like this, and that's the way it's going to be for me for right now, because it doesn't look that bad. It's not awful looking that this is a raw end. I may singe that little thread that's hanging like that just to clean that thread up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and mark my rivet placements, attach my straps, and then finish off my zipper end, and then I'll come back and I will show you the final product of my Parvati bag, which is so cute. I love this little bag. I'm so glad I chose these colors, honestly. All right, so I will be right back and I will show you the finished product of my bag. All right, you guys, here is my finished Parvati. Again, this is Shamballa Bags Secret Sew. So if you do this, you will not be disappointed in the bags that she creates. She has beautiful bags. She has bags that are multicolored, color blocked. She designs them like this one has a nice little shape. I call her a little hippie because it's got that nice little shape at the bottom. That's what makes me think when I see the shape of this bag. But look at this. You've got your front flap pocket here, your slip pocket with the flap closure. There's nothing in the bag, so there's nothing behind that. Turn it. There we go. And then you've got your back slip pocket, really nice. And you got your handles, and it's a nice shoulder strap. You've got your front zipper pocket here, which is very nice. You've got that, and it's a very nice roomy pocket in the front. And then you've got of course, your zipper closure. And I got my little zipper end on. Oops, my zipper end on, which is nice. And I've got it to a nice little thing. So when I open my bag, as I said, I don't like that constriction. So you open it up, your zipper panel, it pops up so it's not in your way. And then you've got your zipper pocket back here. And then I get your slip pocket, which you can divide it. She suggests in the middle, but you can divide it the way you want. I did it off to the side, so you have a larger one here, and then you've got a place to put a couple of pins in, so they're like kept together so they don't flop in your bag. So there you go. There's my Parvati, my Shamballa Secret Sew of this year's 2025. I love it. It's fun, and next time she does one, I will definitely be doing it, and I will definitely follow along with it to where I'm done at the same time as she does her deliveries. I will be on the next step because I thought this was really, really fun to do it. So thank you so much for watching. If you found my videos on this tutorial for this secret sew, and you're not a subscriber, I would appreciate it if you become a subscriber, as well as anyone who watches this likes my series. Let me know. I think the next one I will do the same thing, but I will try to deliver them as the videos, as the deliveries come out. You know, try to put the video out before her next delivery. Again, I did this because I thought it would be fun to show people how she does her secret sews. This was my first one, as I stated in the very beginning, and it's fun not to know what you're doing until the very end. I mean, you start to get an idea as you go along, and then you just try to envision it as you go along, not knowing what the final product's going to look like until the very end. I just think it's really, really fun. I loved it. Thank you so much, Sammy, for the secret sew. Thank you so much for allowing me to do a tutorial on this secret sew. And thanks for creating such a beautiful bag. I just love the shape of this bag. It is so cute. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And everyone, have a great day. Bye.